Hey, you're listening to Your Worst Song podcast. Thank you very much. Normally I record these after I've spoken to the person, so I can give you a bit of a here's what we'll talk about verbal table of contents, but in this case, I wanted to say something before. I'm going to be speaking with Mark, who's sort of the main through line of this band, the Howlin Gales. And the Howlin Gales have been around as long as I can remember sort of being in the scene. They're easily one of the most hardworking acts out there. Mark is a incredibly community-oriented, talented singer-songwriter, and especially live performer. So I think my guess is we'll hear a lot about that. Who knows? But I hope you really enjoy it, and this little preceding ramble makes you check out their music. All right, so I'm Alex Southey, and you're listening to Your Worst Song. And remember, if you enjoy the podcast, give it a follow, recommend it to friends. I am on my way to get a sandwich. Have a good listen. Yeah. So how's it going, dude?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Just playing away and just usual kind of stuff.
I know, yeah, you're consistent as usual. I feel like even with I guess some changes with the band, like for as long as I've known you, I was actually saying that I was recording the intro earlier, and I was like, ever since I can remember getting into the scene, it's like that guy's face is on posters every fucking on my feed, like every week they're playing somewhere. It's very admirable.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the new members and stuff like that, I just thought, kind of fuck it. Let's fill August. Let's play in September. Let's just get as many gigs as we can because guys want to play and stuff. And there's a period there where we were kind of taking a break, kind of figuring out what we want to do. But now that we're kind of back cooking, it's full steam ahead.
Well, you know what? That leads me into, I think, like a first question, not one of the main four questions, but a question that I have, and I feel like maybe some people listening to this will have, which is, how do you book so much? That's my question essentially. Like, I know you're not just doing it in Toronto, obviously. You play around in, Oshawa or wherever else, but you also play in Toronto a decent amount. And correct me if I'm wrong, you don't work with like one of those companies that will help set you up with a show or whatever, or not very often. So I'm curious how you go
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, no, I pretty much I mean I've been doing the booking since day one, and during
Right.
the pandemic when we started, it was pretty much like I had a lot of time on my hands, so I pretty much made a list of like all the venues, all the contact information for most of the venues in Ontario. Um and some of them changed, some venues don't exist anymore, different booking people or what have you. But I pretty much just reach out, and if they don't get back to me, I'll reach out again, and then I'll message on Instagram, I'll message on, I kind of like it. Like that's probably my favorite part, other than playing, is definitely just like hunting down gigs.
The
Um,
admin stuff is your second favorite part to playing live. I feel that's such a
yeah.
rare thing for a musician to say, I feel like.
Well, it's such a hunt. It's like I
Yeah.
enjoy the fact of like I'll see like we played this place last week in Kitchener called the Golden Apple, and it was like
Oh,
I saw a bunch of punk bands like Strawberry Cough and a couple other bands we know on their Instagram. They were playing this. I'm like, oh, there's not many venues in Kitchener,
no.
and I was like, oh, this seems like a cool place to play. Okay, cool. So I literally reached out on their Instagram. They're like, this is a house, just so you know. I'm like, fine. I'm happy. I'm happy with that. And then
That
no, it
would be
ended
a
up being a lot
great
of fun.
that would be a great live album name if you recorded it there. This is a house. I
This
think
is a
that
house.
this
Yeah.
is a house. That would be cool. Anyway, I love that. Kitchener, I don't know, I feel like I see many conversational avenues springing from what you're talking about, but one thing I want to talk about is, okay, first of all, that you enjoy the hunt of cold calling. And to a lot of people, I think they would think that is fucking one level above telemarketing. It's soul sucking, uh, which are both true things. However, I'm a little bit on your end, similar, where I mean, I do work sometimes with other, damn good vibes, and we can give them a shout out.
Yeah.
People like that. Sometimes I'll jump onto those shows, but a lot of it, I'm doing my own booking as well. And I also kind of like the cold email. Okay, it doesn't quite work initially. Email them again. Almost always, if you throw out like 1 to 3 email nets. So a lot of people genuinely will want to get back to you. They just genuinely missed your email because they
Hmm.
probably are inundated all the time, right? So maybe the third time you send an email is the first time they see it. You're not actually necessarily being annoying. You can be. You run that risk.
Oh
But
yeah.
but
Well,
yeah.
I don't get too worried about being annoying. Like, I mean, like there have been some times I definitely have been like like booking. There's a venue up in Guelph that I was booking, and then I was showing the guys this the other week. I was like, I must have sent him 6 different messages every 2 weeks about like playing shows there because he never opened it. And it was like on Instagram I could see if he opened it or not, and
Right,
I'm like,
right.
I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna keep bugging this guy, and then eventually he got back to us with a date, but
Oh
it
shit.
just
Yeah.
it just it just I love playing live, and it's fun. Like I really enjoy playing different venues, meeting different people, and that's probably like I the opposite of some guys. Like I hate recording. Like I really despise the process of getting in there, getting everything set. Like once we start actually recording and tracking,
Right,
it's
right.
good. Um,
But there's a lot
uh,
of sort of tedious sort of especially if you're paying somebody else or working with somebody else to be the recording engineer, it means you're just sort of standing around trying to get everything exactly right, blah, blah, blah. That's funny though. I feel we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. I feel like you play music to play live, and I play live to be able to just barely be able to continue to put out music and have some interest. Like we're doing, like if I could, I would be fucking Brian Wilson, never leaving
yes.
anywhere and just putting music out. But it didn't even work for Brian Wilson, so why would it for me? Uh, but yeah, continue talking about. Well, I want to get into the nitty gritty of it, to be honest. Like, what are your emails? What does your first email look like to a prospective place?
Oh, giving away my secrets here, but
Well, you don't
no,
need to say, don't read it out word for word, but
no,
just
no. I,
information you include.
I just say like, hey, whatever genre it was. So when we used to play as a two piece, I used to say, an all blues band or
Right.
like a blues rock band. My name's first off, I'd introduce myself. I'm the singer guitarist, and
Right.
then usually I'd say like, we'd love to play your venue. Let's add a link to our link tree and stuff like that, and then just say, we're pretty much free. I always give like big open availabilities because usually if I say like a specific date, they'll go, oh no, we don't have that date, but I'll say like, we're pretty much open from October to December. If you
Right.
have any
Right.
dates available, love to play. If not, hopefully we can work something out. And if I know local bands, I'll add like, I was recommended because sometimes I get recommended by like Propter Hawk
Right.
or like this band in Montreal I've been trying to book. There's a band there called the Yesterdays, which
Cool.
I've dropped their name in a couple emails and stuff like that
Oh,
just
yeah.
to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
like, like we know this local band, they recommended me reach out. And yeah, I pretty much keep it. I hate like really long emails. Like my
Yeah.
dad taught me that. My dad's been in business for 40 years, so he's like, if you people have to scroll, that tend to lose
Exactly.
interest. So
Convenience and brevity. Make it as easy as possible for the person to listen to your music or check it out and just understand who you are. You know what I mean?
100%,
That's what it
100%.
seems like. Well, okay. This can lead us to the first question. What is your worst gig memory?
Oh geez. Someone asked me that the other week. We've had like, I mean, we've played so many shows that there have been, I wouldn't say like the worst I've ever had to like worst I've dealt with in terms of staff was the Baby G.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that
Do
one
you
was
do you
we're
want me
still
to bleep this out?
no. You can say it. Well, they've got us blacklisted. We can't play there any. We can't play
Oh
there. Yeah.
shit.
So
Okay.
that
All
was
right.
I sent like I just I being this was like 3 years ago now. I pretty much just I sent an email that night and I just said, listen, like we had a great and it was a great night. I think we had 120 people in there. Like all the bands
Oh,
had a lot of fun. It was
damn.
like in terms of that, it wasn't bad. But then um just the staff they wanted us to like throw our gear on the street and things like that. and it was cold. It was
Whoa.
February. Yeah, and it was very, and it was very very interesting, like just dealing with that. I mean, I probably could have handled it better in some senses after the fact, but I talked to the guy. I just said pretty much they came up with some bogus stuff and said, "Listen, you're blacklisted." And then not only did they blacklist us, but they sent an email to all these bookers around the city.
What the
So they
fuck?
sent, yeah, so they sent a message to, like, I got a message from when Craig Lasky was booking the horseshoe. I got a message from Craig Lasky. I got a message from Dan Burke saying, like, what happened at the Baby G? And I just
Damn.
kind of had to explain my side of it and just say, like, listen, this is what we had planned. This is what the staff did. And it was like literally, it was hard because it was one of the worst experiences that we, like, in terms of nights. It was a great night. Like
Yeah.
everything went really well.
So I don't understand. How could it have gone so wrong on the personal side if I feel like 90% of making a good impression is having people out, which you did.
Yeah, I just there was one staff member in particular who I don't know if he still works there, but he was being an asshole to everyone all night. And
Uh,
I just said to him, like, very very plainly, I'm like, man, like, you don't, there's a lot of people out tonight. You don't have to be an assoul. Like, you
damn.
don't have to be. And I'm not, I mean, I have a family of like three siblings. I'm not really afraid of confrontation
Yeah.
and I can stay calm during confrontation. And I just said, listen, man, like, this is, we've never, there's a lot of people out tonight. A lot of people would have stayed and kept drinking. Like, we'd planned to do like kind of like an after party because it was our first year anniversary show.
Oh,
And so we had like 60 people who wanted to stay and drink in the bar, and they just shut it all down.
what
And
the
we talked to
fuck?
the booker about doing it, and in our heads we are kind of like, well, this is 60 people. You're going to make more money like in the next hour and a half than you could, you know what I mean? Like, than
Yeah.
most shows
Yeah, for sure.
if there wasn't people. But
So it
no,
sounds
that was,
like was the reason that you had to get your gear, it sounds like it had something to do with the night needing to end at a certain time.
yeah, they were trying to just get us out. And like, I'd message, and I have the emails. It's like we had conversations where they said, oh yeah, like, we wanted to do like a dance party or like an after party kind of thing afterwards because we had a friend's band playing Bar Orwell right across the
Mm,
street.
hmm.
And so we are like, yeah, there's gonna be great. There's gonna be, there was 40 people who wanted to 40 to 60 people who wanted to
Yeah.
stay and drink.
All right.
And yeah, and they pretty much just like half a song in, like my buddy, well, now our drummer Aaron, he was doing like the music, and half a song in, they turned all the lights on, kicked off his music, and were pretty much like forcibly, like, they almost didn't let us back in just to grab our gear because we
What the
went out for a
fuck?
smoke after our set, and then they're like, no, no, you can't come in. I'm like, man, I got to grab my gear, you know.
What time of night was this?
This was 12:15.
Okay, wow. So what day of the week?
Friday or Saturday. I forget what.
Oh,
I've actually got the poster up there. I think it was a Friday, if I'm
the
not
poster
mistaken.
up there and it's got a bunch of dart holes in it from you just
Oh well, no. The funny thing is my parents, because it was around my birthday. My parents, they ended up framing the poster, giving it to me for my birthday. And then
no.
after the fact, they're like, "Yeah, we're sorry it went so wrong, but
Yeah. Well, still it sounds like a great show, you know?
yeah, no, like, in terms of, like, I mean, in terms of shows, it was great. Just in terms of like dealing like with the
Yeah, the
drama that
staff
comes
stuff.
around music, yeah.
Right.
Um,
So
but I
you
mean,
said
we
how
played.
long ago was that? 3 years ago?
It'd be 2 years ago in February.
2 years ago in February.
Yeah.
I feel like it's long enough now. Couldn't you find a back
I
door in? Or you don't give a shit
sure.
either.
I don't really care. I mean,
Okay,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I don't. It's. I mean, it'd be great because they banned us from there and the Garrison. Like, it'd be great to book
The big G.
uh, the Big G. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be
the big
good to
G.
book again at some point. But at the same time, there's so many venues in the city that, like, I got
Totally.
emails after we did that said, there, we never had issues with you guys. And so it's like, at the same time, there's so many venues that know who we are and know what we're kind of about and know that this is what they were saying was not
Yeah, part of me wants
true
to
at
go
all.
full Oprah and be like, let's look at these fucking emails. I want to hear about this. But no, no. I do, let's get dramatic. No, I don't. Anyway, you're totally right that there are a bunch of other venues. If you guys, don't want to work together again, there's other stuff. Although at the same time, I feel like a bunch of, sadly, some venues are closing, like you just mentioned, Bar Orwell. Now,
Yeah.
since that story, right? They're gone. few other places. So it's a weird balancing act, I think, for the city and the audience and the musicians with venues.
Yeah,
And we also don't need to go down this lane because it's even more divisive. But everything that happened with the horseshoe, it's like some stuff is, it's tough
yeah,
to navigate. Um,
yeah. No, 100%.
well, anyway, okay, we can steer towards calmer waters here. What about a best gig altogether?
Uh, every time we've played the handlebar, it's been great. There have been
Love the
like
handlebar. There's no
three,
pretension there either. It's just
none.
like whatever. Play. It
Yeah.
has a bunch of different styles of music that they're open to. It's like
Mhm.
relatively cheap drinks. There's like a kind of feels like a communal feeling. Partially that's being
Yeah.
in Kensington Market, but yeah,
Yeah.
the
I'd say every gig, like we played, when we released Keep On Rolling, we played a single release show there with the Converts, and I think it was Propter Hawk as well. Great gig. Um, yeah, like every time we go there, like I'll always book. I'm actually working on a charity show right now for December at
okay.
Handlebar. Every time I reach out to Zach, he's awesome, and it's just it's great, great getting back there, and it's just a great bar. Like it's probably
Nice,
one of
yeah.
my favorites in the city, and we never it's you never really have a bad night there because you can always get people in, and it's even if you have 20 people in the room, it still feels like it's full because it's not a huge bar. You
Exactly.
know.
I agree. And you're so right about getting people in. Like I think it's is actually a rare example of it gets walk-in traffic. It gets
A
walk-in
lot, a
customers
lot of walking. Yeah,
and a lot of locally famous venues that you'd expect to have walk-in do not get fucking walk-ins. So
yeah.
it's nice that Hard Luck is it's
Handlebar, handlebar. You said
Handlebar,
hard.
fuck. Handlebar. Whoops. Hard Luck is cool, but yeah, Handlebar. It's cool that Handlebar is I don't know, it's kind of crushing it on all cylinders. I feel like the sound there is great. People want to hang out there and they book a bunch of different cool music.
Yeah, 100%, man.
So what else
100%.
makes a good show? Like I want to know specifically, like, is it if you play so often that I understand that maybe they almost run together sometimes, especially if they're just like, yeah, there was a pretty good show. Then why would you
Mhm.
remember it necessarily? But I guess anything that surprised you, that was surprisingly good, like
I
maybe
mean,
you
I think
discovered a new part of a song that you had been playing forever, and then you're like, oh, this mistake led to this, and now I'm gonna play this song this way from now on. Stuff like that.
I mean, I think there's like a couple factors. Like we've had some really good shows where it's just been, 10 people in the audience, but they've been very engaged. For me, it's not as much about like the music at per se as much as the night itself. I don't
Hmm.
know if that makes sense. Like
Atmosphere.
some atmosphere. Yeah, it's like some shows are great because they are packed. Um, but some shows it's great because you end up, you're in Guelph getting drunk with your buddies after the
Hmm.
show, and it's a good time in that sense. So, I mean, yeah, with the amount of shows, it's like obviously you want like for me, it comes down to performance ultimately. Like if the performance is really good, and I felt really good after the set, and people people seemed engaged with it, then um, I would say that is important to me. But then everything outside of that, I mean, if it's three people in the bar and we end up playing like one of the best sets we played, I still think it's a good set just because
Right.
the reason we play so many gigs is just to keep growing and getting better.
Yeah. 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 No, definitely. You treat it like something that you have to hone consistently. It's a very good example that you said. Uh, okay. Well, what about because you just referenced Guelph there? What are some cities outside of Toronto that some stuff you just love? Like, oh, I would in a heartbeat go back to this city and play.
Oh,
Like
Hamilton's
Guelph
great.
or Hamilton. Okay,
Hamilton is great.
talk to me
Hamilton.
about Hamilton. Where have you played?
We've played Corktown. I played the Casper at the Young Scones indoors pub.
Hmm.
Always good. They always love music. They've got a good scene in general. Like I'm finding there's a lot of bands. We're actually playing there again this Friday. There's a lot of bands like in kind of a punk rock scene there, but then there's also a lot more like singer songwriter kind of alt
Yes.
stuff.
Alt rock
Uh,
or alt folk singer songwriter.
yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely those are two real camps there that seem to be thriving.
Yeah, and there's so many bands, and I mean, there's great like we played house shows at Goddess House, which is they run like If you haven't heard of Goddess, you have to check
No,
them out.
no.
They're like Led Zeppelin mixed with like punk rock, and like it's a
Oh, the
really cool
band. I
the
thought it was a
band. Yeah,
van.
yeah.
I thought it was a venue name. My bad. That's why I didn't know.
Well, it look. I mean, they run kind of these underground things out of their apartment.
Oh,
But we played a New Year's show there, and in the summer they do stuff in their backyard, and um, no, it's always fun like hanging out with those guys and just yeah, it's a really good community. Like outside of Toronto, I've found like probably Hamilton would be the most connected. Like
hmm.
every kind of band knows each other, from punk to more of like the singer-songwritery stuff. It's like everyone kind of
You mean
has
connected in Hamilton? They all know
in
each other,
Hamilton, yeah.
even though they're different genres? Right,
Even
right,
though
right.
they're different genres, like you'll have people coming out of the woodwork. Like we had a guy I haven't seen in 3 years, or probably 2 years, I'd say. We played a show in Oshawa with them, and they came out to the show last Friday at Doors Pub, and it's like that
Whoa.
kind of stuff is just that kind of stuff is great. And we still have guys in the city who we're friends with who moved to Toronto who will come out to shows that we met from Hamilton. So
That's crazy.
it's really cool.
That's validating. That must be proof a little bit that they're like walking testimonials that you're a good live band.
Yeah, and I think I think we're good guys too. Like I think in terms of we never try to ruffle feathers. We've only really had, other than the Baby G, we've had maybe one other altercation with the band, but
Hmm.
overall we're pretty easygoing. We kind of get how it is, and we just want to play a lot and just continue to get better, you know?
That's what it seems like to me. You guys seem like pretty easygoing people. So maybe that's why it was so interesting to me, that conflict. Uh, but yeah. Well, I'm curious just about Howlin' Gale's plans at the moment. You said obviously you've booked a bunch of shows in August, but what about music?
Yeah, we basically have a single kind of lined up for September 21st when we have a big horseshoe show September 21st.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we've got that lined up.
Did I
And
just hear a bark or am I?
yeah, I've got my dog right
Oh,
here.
okay. I was
Give me
like,
1 second.
who is this?
I'm just like, he's at the door.
Mm, adorable.
Yeah, he's
The adore
adorable,
bubble.
adorable, but a little bit annoying. You want to come in? You can come in. Come in. Okay, now you're joining in.
He
Yeah,
thinks you
yeah,
need backup after hearing about the conflicts. He's like, yeah, fuck those people.
yeah.
Bro.
But no, I mean it's kind of we're going in a different direction. I mean, for a long time we played as a two-piece with me and Marcelo. But with Marcelo leaving the band, it's kind of going more in a I'd say country rock direction.
Hmm.
Uh, which
Interesting.
is like which is I mean I'm writing songs like I've said this to my girlfriend. I'm like I'm writing songs now that I wanted to write when I was 17, but I wasn't able to write, or I didn't have the vocal capacity to write per se.
Wow, that's
Um,
a cool way of framing it.
yeah, no, it's exciting. It's one of those things that like I didn't I didn't yeah, I kind of just got like I wasn't supposed to be a singer in the band per
Oh, I
se.
don't. Wow, that doesn't come across considering now how confident you seem on stage in your voice.
Yeah, no, I mean it's one of those things like when we first met, it started with like sorry, I'm just letting the dog out right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah, it's all
Um
good.
when it started, it was pretty much Marcelo was just engineering the music. We met like 2 months before the pandemic, and then yeah, it was me, this bassist named Steve, and this drummer named Andre, who were all 10 years older than me. And then they're like, "Well, these are your songs, so you're gonna play them." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I always thought I'd be kind of more of a Robbie Robertson per se. Like
Right, right.
I'd write the music, but I'd play guitar, and it's taken me honestly like I'd say 3 years, 4 years to really get to the spot where I'm really happy vocally.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Wow.
like I think yeah, going forward, we're definitely leaning more in like a country. I say country because it's like that's kind of what I grew up listening to. So lyrically, it's more country, but we still have like that rock aspect to it, you know?
Yeah, I don't think you could ever, speaking as someone who's known you for a little while, no, I can't see you leaving that behind completely. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. And
It stuff
I think,
seems in you.
yeah, no, and I think people kind of forget that there is like a rock side to country, you know, like Jerry Lee Lewis as not that he's a great idol considering some of the personal issues,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
like he was a country and a rock guy, and what he was playing, some people today might say, "Oh, that's country," but it's like it's pretty rock and roll. Like setting a piano on fire before a Chuck Berry set and like doing stuff like that. It's
Right,
you
right,
know,
right, right.
it's very rock and roll. So just kind of
Yeah,
finding balance.
yeah, that's true. And I almost feel like the Jerry Lee Lewis stuff is almost it's not necessarily even rock if you looked up the definition of rock in terms of the instrumentation you'd expect, but his attitude is what, and the how he played the piano is sort of what made it rock, right?
Yeah.
Like he did
No.
Great Balls of Fire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
even that is, yeah, it doesn't sound like Chuck Berry, but if it's a bit like if Chuck Berry played the piano, that might be what it sounded like. So I can
Yeah.
see how it's an approximation of rock or still within rock, but that brings up a whole other thing of how like fucking I was thinking about this yesterday. Like um think about it like this. Keen. You remember that Keen? Like Somewhere Only We Know, that song from when we were
I think so.
kids, maybe? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, or whatever. Early Coldplay, Snow Patrol, all that stuff. Okay.
Mhm.
It was seen as like almost like pop rock back then. And now it would see my the only thing I'm trying to get at, and I've totally lost the rope, is perception over time changes so much that some bands almost begin to be another genre because
Yeah.
of how we think about things now, right?
Yeah.
Like, I
Well,
think
and
this
even
is actually what I was trying to say. That was considered pop then.
mhm.
And now it's like Charlie XCX or whatever. And I'm not even comparing them in terms of quality at all. It's just how far pop, mainstream pop has changed and what your idea, or the Killers, Mr. Brightside, that would have been considered like pop rock at least.
Mhm.
Now people, kids growing up, if they were like 10 and they heard Mr. Brightside, they'd probably be like, oh yeah, that's like rock, indie rock. There would be no sense of pop in it. They
Well,
wouldn't attach
I
that word.
I laugh. Everything gets alternative thrown on it nowadays. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
if you look at like if you look at like the alternative thing like on my phone, like on Apple Music or something, it goes like the Black Keys, but then you also have like Arcade Fire, and then you have like oh my God, what's his name? Big, just getting not Zach Bryan. Sticks. He just sings Stick Season. Noah
Stick
Khan.
season. Oh yeah, yeah, right, right, right.
Yeah, like you've got
Yeah,
like he's alternative too. It's like there's such a wide variety of alternative now, and I feel like
totally.
everything's kind of getting thrown into that. Either it's blues alternative or it's this, but I think it's just
Yeah.
hard to find. Like there's so much music nowadays. It's hard. There's no specific genre that anything really is anymore.
It's all just like a weird gumbo where flavors are more dominant than other ones, but it seems like they've
Mhm.
got everything. Whereas before it was just like one flavor.
No,
It's bizarre. Uh,
100%.
yeah. But I mean, hey, this is something you can get into too. I mean, like there's a bunch of really good and bad things about the bar being lowered for access to music because people who 20 or 30 years ago wouldn't have had the access to it now get to make music as long as they have a laptop. That's the
Hmm.
barrier for entry, which is really good. But anyway, um, okay. But I want to hear, speaking of your songwriting, how it's changed. Obviously, I would like this answer to be music within the music that you've released thus far so we could listen to it. But what do you think is the Howlin' Gale's best song? Whatever that means to you.
Oh, of music we've released,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd probably say Keep On Rolling.
Yeah.
I'd say that's like my favorite, just in terms of the sound going forward. That probably represents the band the best.
Yeah.
It's
It's a
also always fun.
successful live staple, I was gonna say. Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Because it has a bit of
It's
a call and response thing with the crowd.
yeah. No, it's yeah. I'd say that's probably one of my favorite ones. I'd say the best, maybe not the best recorded one that we've ever had. Um, but in terms of just like performance and just and well, maybe one of the best recorded ones too. Um, yeah, I'd say probably Keep On Rolling for
Yeah,
sure.
it's
And
like
I'm
a
really
good
happy lyrically with it.
representation of the band.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of references to like my own life, which I always like I used to just be able to write stories and just kind of do stuff like that, where it's like the Dylan-y kind of
Or
rambling
Robbie
story
Robertson. Yeah.
or the Robbie Robertson, yeah. But no,
Civil
with
War.
that one, it's like there's so many references to, like I remember being in like walking with my dad when I was 16 from Harlem to Washington Square, and it was
Mm,
raining in New York, and like stuff like the first time I was in New York. And so it's like I try to tie that stuff in as much as possible.
definitely. No, I love that then. And that's also sort of in the tradition of country, which is where you're beginning to lean, right? So that even brings it back to you're beginning to make songs although yes, this is a previously released song, but you're leaning more in this direction. It's music you wanted to write when you were 17, like you said,
Yeah.
but didn't have the ability. Yeah, okay. Well, fantastic. People go listen to that. I'm very familiar with that one because I've been to a bunch of your shows. But for anyone who isn't, it's what would you say? It's like a blues rock song. That's how I would categorize it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a
An
blues.
alternative blues rock song. No, I'm just throwing alternative on everything. Yeah, okay, keep on rolling. And what about we're at the moment, your worst song?
Ooh. This is the thing. Marcelo's got some really bad ones from back in the day, and there's a couple that I'm thinking of. But in terms of released ones,
Yeah, released ones.
I'd probably say, and people are gonna hate me for this because they a lot of people really like this song, but she's always got a man. Um,
Okay, okay.
a little bit petty. I didn't basically the story behind it is I knew a couple of women, not that I was dating, but even just friends that they were always dating someone. No matter what,
Ah,
they'd stop dating. So it's that line, she's always got a man kind of came up.
gotcha.
Um, but in terms of like my songwriting, um, I don't love necessarily. It's very bluesy. And it's
Uh-huh.
not bad for what it is, but in terms of like where I kind of want to go or my own songwriting critiques, I kind of cringe a little bit
Uh-huh.
when I do it. Um,
No, this is good. This is a perfect contender for this question because it's like something you genuinely don't like and want to leave behind, sort of, it sounds like.
mhm.
Um, or at least if you were to ever venture into that subject again or that specific style of genre again, you'd want it to be a little more refined and like different perspectives, perhaps, or whatever,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
but
do you
it's
still play that live?
we still play it live and people like it. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. I've gotten people off for that first EP re-released. I've had people who said like, "Yeah, it's like one of my favorite songs," and I just kind of go, "Yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, I
People
enjoy it."
people when they say like this is not a judgment on them. This is just the way that people listen to music, especially if they're not musicians themselves. Uh, they just hear a song as sort of a whole. Like maybe they'll eventually, if they listen to it like 15 times, pick out like, oh, that was a cool shaker in the left ear, and I like that
Mhm,
little lick on the guitar in the right ear. But mostly they're just like, oh, that song coming out of my case. And then they hear the entire song in their head like a painting. They just see
mhm,
it all at once. And so I think that's how you get people like that, where they're maybe if they spent time reading those lyrics or if they spent time analyzing the song, they'd feel a little closer to you, how you do now. But they don't
mhm.
because they're just like, oh, I like the way
I
it
like the
sounds.
beat. I like the
Yeah,
riff. Like, yeah,
exactly. They're
that's
not
what
even think so
my
many
mom
people
always
aren't
says.
lyric people anyway, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's it's kind of a shame because it's like there's so many good, I mean, yourself included in this. There's so many good songwriters in the city and just like the lyrics are just fucking amazing. It's like people focus more on the beat than anything. Whereas if you listen to the lyrics of some, I think that's part of the reason why we're leaning more towards the singer-songwritery stuff is just because I want the lyrics to kind of shine through. You know,
Exactly, right.
might be a simple progression, but in terms of what it actually like what the lyrics are they kind of shine through with those simpler progressions if that makes sense.
I completely agree. I mean, if well, this is actually a bad example. I was about to say if Bob Dylan's music was like Rush, but he was still as verbose, it would be hard to focus. But then I thought Rush lyrics are pretty fucking
Yeah.
they're a thicket. You know, some of
Yeah.
it is very philosophical and political and things there's symbolism and stuff a grade 11 English teacher would love. So bad example, but I get what you mean. The simpler some other things are, the more you can focus on one thing. And then in this case, lyrics. You mentioned your mom and how she had always said people only really like, or maybe you mentioned your mom in that she says, I'm only focused on the beat or whatever. But it made me curious, is your mom or is your family an influence on your music?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I kind of like I tend to draw from people, whether it's in a bar or whether it's like I always just kind of like watching people. I mean,
Hmm.
that sounds creepy, but just absorbing from people around me. And yeah, I definitely say like my family, I have this one song, Old Lines, that we're gonna release on our next EP about my siblings. And it's just, yeah, there's definitely influence there. I mean, I moved around a lot when I was a kid. Like um I lived in Vancouver. I lived in Calgary, like really young, and my family's from out west. So it's kind of like I've got this weird split personality wise because it's like I've kind of got this countryside to me, just in
Hmm.
terms of I like being outside the city. I love the mountains when I lived there. But then I've also got this like I went to high school in the city, and I've got like this kind of like 50-50 split that sometimes, depending on the song, kind of comes out. Um, but yeah, my dad's a huge influence on me when it comes to like just getting into guitar and just songwriting. I mean, I started songwriting when I was about 5 or 6,
Wow.
and it was just because my dad used to play all these Bob Dylan tracks. And he's just like, these guys were great songwriters. You can write songs, and even if I wasn't singing them, it was just
Wow, that's a
I
really
didn't.
nice thing to instill in your kid. I think most kind parents would think, yeah, if my child chooses to want to write a song, I'll support them. But it's rare to be just presented with the advice. You can write songs. It's interesting.
Well, it's one of those things. Like he just played so much music, and Um, I think it's kind of the torch because he listens to the same music I've listened to for the last 20 years. But
Hmm.
it's interesting now, like my siblings, like my brother introduced me to Tyler Childers. And
I don't
he's
know
one
who
of
that
my
is.
favorite. Oh, he's a great country singer-songwriter, kind of outlaw country from the States.
Okay.
Um, and my brother introduced me to him, and then he's one of my favorite artists. Like his lyricism is great, and we cover one of his songs, White House Road, now. But yeah, it's interesting to see how like the influence from my siblings, my sister especially too. Like she showed me Sam Fender,
She
who
sells seashells down by the
yeah,
seashore.
I know, right? Yes, is like I grew up with a list too. So like
Oh
saying that
shit.
you have
Okay,
this
I'm
main
sorry. I
artist.
didn't know that.
No, 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 no. It's
I was
okay.
purely saying it not to make fun of you, but because it reminded me of the thing.
Yeah. No,
And I have a weird just I have to say that stuff. I'm sorry.
no,
Uh,
no, it's all good,
but
man.
she
It's
had
all
an
good.
influence on you.
Yeah, they all have. I mean, it's
Does she
whether it's
play instruments too?
my oldest younger sister plays violin. She's like classically trained in violin. She's played since she was
Oldest younger
10.
sister. I didn't know I was gonna have to do math here. All right, come on.
Yeah, I've got a sister who's a year younger than me, a brother who's about 3 years, and another sister who's 4 years younger than me.
Gotcha. And then brothers as well,
Oh
or
no, well, so boy, girl, boy, girl. So
boy?
me, my
Oh, right, right,
sister,
right. Sorry.
brother, and then sister.
Right, my bad. Okay, wow, sorry. I keep cutting you off.
Oh,
So,
it's
but
all good.
yeah, it sounds like they're an influence on you in general, which is really. Do they come to your shows too, or are they living elsewhere? Or
So when they're back in the summer, they do.
all right, right, right.
My youngest sister is at school at McGill. My brother actually goes to University of Vermont. He plays hockey there.
Whoa.
And then my back to the youngest older sister actually is doing a law degree in England right now.
Wow, cool. Your
Yeah.
sibling, you're all on cool paths. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Wow.
it's interesting. I used to think it was one of those things where like they were all taking the straight path, but then I realized like the straight path would have been to kind of stay in the province,
All right,
and then
exactly.
they've all gone elsewhere and kind
It's
of
gone
taken
stray.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like something you all well, you know what? You only have your parents to blame because they were moving you around early on. You know, it's
Yeah.
probably it's probably in you. Uh where are you from in the West? Like you said BC and Alberta, but where in BC?
So my mom's from a small town in the interior called Revelstoke.
Oh, okay. I've heard of it
Um,
because if it's famous for skiing and stuff, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
bears. Um,
And bears.
and bears. Every couple of years, to get a video out of Revelstoke of like a bear walking into a convenience store or
Yeah.
something. Um,
Gotcha.
but yeah, they're from there, and my mom's from there. My dad's from Saskatchewan.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Got a real mix there. Got a real yeah, West vibe. So then when did you come to Ontario or Toronto?
So my parents went to University of well, University of Victoria and University UBC.
Okay.
And then I was born in Toronto. My sister and brother, like the older sister and brother, were born in were born in Toronto, and then we moved to Vancouver when I was about 4 or 5. My youngest sister was born there, and then I lived in Calgary to the time when I was about 10, I'd say.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then we moved back into the city.
Well, I don't remember what can I ask how old you are again?
24.
24. Okay. That's the thing I'll bleep, so nobody knows. No, I was gonna say, okay, then we probably didn't overlap, but I was also living in Vancouver until I was 6. Uh,
Oh, cool.
so I wondered if there was any overlap, but I guess probably not. Um, or barely, maybe part of a year, but yeah, anyway, that's cool. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Sorry that we
Yeah.
ended with your beginning, weirdly.
No, it's
Um,
all good, man.
but I hope people go check out your best and worst songs and come see you live because, yeah, I can vouch. This is a great live band, no matter the lineup. I've seen you as a pair. I've seen you as with like 4 people, I think, at one point. I've seen you solo. So there you go. People should go. So in that case, can you take us out and just say your name again, the band's name, and the worst song name?
My name is Mark Sinclair. I'm the singer guitarist for the Howlin Gales, and our worst song, or my worst song, is "She's Always Got a Man."
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
I see you walking around this place. I don't know what to do. The perfect image of someone I knew. Oh, it's true. You're running through my mind. I don't understand. She's always got a man. Say what you're gonna say. Does it bother me? Come back my way one day, and then we'll see. Oh no. I'm running out of time. I don't understand. She's always got a man. Here we go again now. Back into the heat. I'm not good at all the shit. The hopeless to free. Oh no. Where we going now?